morning from Abad, Israel. It's a nice summer morning.
Yeah, this is what,
July
July 10th.
the
Yeah,
10th.
the 10th day of July, 2019.
And we missed last week, but we've had a lot of things going on around here. Last week, I didn't review my video, but I think we talked about the attributes of God that he told Moses on the mountain. And I heard recently that God does not identify himself as the God of love.
Oh, yes. Well, at least that's not.
It's not written that God is love like that.
Right.
Okay. But he introduced himself as the one who had loving kindness.
Right.
No love can be produced by anything other than it comes from God. So
Yeah.
he is the God of love.
Right.
Any attribute, anything that's good comes from him, because he also identified himself as the one of all goodness.
Yeah. And he didn't create everything out of hate. He created it because he loved the idea of having people worship him.
Well, just have people that he could identify with and talk to.
Right.
And plan with, and etc. So loving kindness is a very interesting word, because kindness is in the word. Now, kindness can be done without love.
I guess so, yeah.
Because kindness is doing something that for another without any expectation of payback, or the person may not be able to even identify that you did it or pay you back.
Or, for example, if someone's drowning and he's somebody you hate, but you see his life is in danger, you're going to be kind and go after him, even though it's not really love.
That's true. However, an unloving kindness would be if I know, I feel like people are expecting something of me, therefore I do it. The doing of it is kindness, because I'm going beyond what is required by God. But I'm doing it out of the motivation of pleasing other people, rather than out of the motivation because I just love to do this.
Okay.
Your father was an example of loving kindness. He did not have to take people to the doctor.
No.
He did not have to give them vegetables and things out of his garden.
No.
But he loved doing it.
Right.
That's loving kindness. And so the attributes of God are anything that is goodness. So we wonder, well, how can he be fierce and take on battles and so on and so forth?
The judgment, yeah.
One of the things is he claims to be a jealous God. Not jealous like you and I, where we want something that is ours not to be taken away.
Right.
But jealous that it doesn't get messed up and be irredeemable.
Yeah.
Jealous to protect because he loves.
Yeah, the jealousy comes from his great love.
Right.
When that's being tarnished or negated by people who should be receiving that love, or they worship something else, then he doesn't like that.
Well, and he knows that's going to destroy their life. It's different than our basic way of being jealous, but it has some of that connotation in it. Okay, so how will the people of Israel know in later times, after the experience of coming out of Egypt, who God is? He names himself to Moses as Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh, which is a hidden name. It's to memorialize it. But he named himself Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh the God who has taken you out of Egypt.
Are you reading the scripture?
I got that from a scripture
What scripture?
in Egypt, in Exodus.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I should have written down the reference,
It's
but he
interesting.
identifies himself that way many times.
Okay.
In Deuteronomy, especially when he's reiterating what has happened in the
Okay,
past.
we can look for it, yeah.
Okay, the reason that they are always connected to the God who brought you out of Egypt is why he installs this Pesach or Passover festival,
Okay.
so that they never forget
You're right, right.
who brought them out. It was Yud-Keh Vav-Keh.
Yeah, and it's really education. It's an education for the kids.
In Deuteronomy 13, they are not to acknowledge any other God. This
Right.
follows where he's retelling the Ten Commandments. You did not see any form. You only heard a voice and saw lightning and fire on the mountain. That comes out of Exodus 20.
Okay.
Signs and wonders, even prophecies that come true, do not prove God. If the God spoken about did not speak to you or bring you out of Egypt, that's in Deuteronomy 13. Those false prophets are allowed only to test you, to see if you will serve me wholeheartedly. So the reason that he allows people to come and say, I'm God, or I did all these wonderful things, is to test them. And the prophet God Yud-Keh Vav-Keh raised up would be like Moses and not greater than he. That is also in there.
Okay.
They must worship only God, the God they have experienced.
Oh,
That
wow.
takes you back to Egypt,
Yeah.
bringing out of Egypt.
Mhm.
So he reiterates in Deuteronomy 5:2, I am Yud-Keh Vav-Keh, who brought you out of Egypt. This is how they will always identify him. And this is the purpose of Pesach. In this context, they are told not to make images or worship anything in heaven or on earth.
Mhm.
And he tells them again of the experience they had at the foot of Mount Sinai, which
Right.
was they did not see any forms,
Right.
only heard a voice and saw lightning and
That
thunder.
was a major experience for them. I mean, that's when they really became a nation.
Exactly. And so, if people ever wonder why it's difficult to convert a Jew, I've just given you the main frame of thinking.
Wow.
Now, a Jew that has assimilated,
Mhm.
has quit hearing what they are supposed to believe
Right.
or what their forefathers have told them, they are like the what is it? The group that picked off the weak ones at the end of the trail.
What?
The Amorites.
Oh.
They came and fought Israel as they were in the desert,
Oh, yes.
and they picked off the weak ones at the back of
yes.
the group. That's what those who find the weak ones that
Yeah.
don't know this
that
stuff,
but they don't hold on to it. Right. Yeah.
they pick them off. Okay. Every time you see Lord, capital letters,
Capital L,
O,
capital O, capital R, capital
D. in the Bible that
All
you
capitals,
read,
yeah.
it is generally Yud-Keh Vav-Keh.
Certainly, certain translations anyway. Definitely, the NIV has it that way.
And there is a few that vary, but that's because the translator likes it some other way.
Yeah.
And if you want to really know, you have to read the Hebrew or
Right.
find where it's used.
Right.
If you learn those letters that make up his name, you can check it out in the Hebrew Bible.
Yeah, I don't know how many would do that, but
Yes. Now, I'm just going to mention Isaiah 45. You can go to that chapter and some others before and after. And he says, I only am God, there is no other. So he stresses that through the prophet.
Yeah.
In Isaiah 11, we learn of the sprout that comes out of Jesse.
Mhm.
And every Christian and Jew says that it's speaking about the Messiah.
Right.
This person is going to have reverence for Yud Ke Vav Ke.
Mhm. Okay.
So that sets the Messiah apart or separate from Yud Ke Vav Ke. He is not
Oh
Yud
yeah, it's not the same. Right.
He
right.
and
right.
Yud
That's
Ke Vav Ke
very-
are not the same.
Oh, very important. Very important.
So in Isaiah 61, Yud Ke Vav Ke does not anoint himself.
Yeah, boy. Can you imagine King David pouring the oil over his own
I'm
head?
going to read this, the beginning of it. 61, the Spirit of the Master or Ruler, God,
Right.
is upon me, because Yud Ke Vav Ke has anointed me.
Okay.
He has sent me as a herald of joy to the humble, to bind up the wounded of heart, and to proclaim release to the captives.
Wow.
Now, in this scripture here in Isaiah, Isaiah is referring to himself.
Okay.
He's writing down all of this message as a herald of joy to the humble. Any prophet who takes this scripture and says God's doing the same to me is announcing that he's a prophet that God has given a message to of joy for the humble. But that does not make him the Yud Ke Vav Ke that's mentioned here. Now that's just two scriptures I've given you,
Right.
but you can find many more in the Tanakh that show that Messiah and Yud Ke Vav Ke are two different
Two different
people.
Oh well, two different whatever.
Well, two different entities.
Entities, yeah.
So this is another reason why you can't make a Jew that studies his Bible
Right. Oh, that's,
decide on making somebody else Yud Ke Vav
that
Ke.
is a big, big, big deal in Judaism. Big deal.
And that's all I think I want to give today on this. We may have really reached maybe the conclusion of who God is.
Unless you think of some more good things to share.
Well, we'll see what happens this week. And I don't know for sure whether we'll go on with another video or not, another subject. I sometimes think that we really need to know who man is,
Yes.
in
yeah,
contrast to who God is,
that would be a good one.
to really find where our place is
Yeah.
in His creation.
That's
and realm.
right.
So I'm going to think about that one, and
Okay.
we'll talk to you again sometime later.
Okay.